Session 9 of Active Listening Mastery. 15 Practical Lessons for Better Communication. Active listening during conflict. Have you ever been in a conversation where you knew you should listen, but you could not? The other person was speaking. Your mind was already preparing a defense. Your heart was beating faster, and every sentence felt like another attack. You may have been physically present, but mentally, you were already fighting back. This is one of the hardest moments to practice active listening. Listening is relatively easy when we agree with someone. The real test comes when we disagree, feel blamed, believe we are being misunderstood, or think the other person is completely wrong. During conflict, our natural reaction may be to interrupt, defend ourselves, raise our voice, withdraw, or start collecting evidence to prove our point. Unfortunately, these reactions often make the conflict worse. In this session, we will learn how to use active listening when conversations become emotional or argumentative. The goal is not to make you agree with everything another person says. The goal is to understand what they are saying before deciding how to respond. That distinction is extremely important. Active listening during conflict begins with one simple idea. Understanding is not the same as agreement. You can understand why your coworker is frustrated without agreeing that you caused the problem. You can understand why a family member feels ignored without accepting every accusation they make. You can understand your partner's feelings without believing that their interpretation of an event is completely accurate. Understanding gives you information. Agreement is a separate decision. When we confuse these two ideas, we become afraid to listen. We may think, if I let this person finish, they will think I admit they are right. So we interrupt, we defend, we correct details immediately. But listening does not mean surrendering your position. It means creating enough space to understand the other person's position. The first practical skill is to slow the conversation down. Conflict often creates speed. People speak faster, interrupt more quickly, and respond before they have fully processed what they heard. If you want to listen effectively, deliberately reduce that speed. Imagine a coworker says, "You never communicate important information on time. I always have to find out from someone else." Your first instinct might be, "That's not true. I sent you the email yesterday." That response may contain a factual correction, but it does not address the frustration underneath the statement. A better first response could be, "It sounds like you feel you are often finding out about important information too late." Notice what happened. You did not admit that you always communicate badly. You simply showed that you understood the concern. This creates room for the other person to explain instead of forcing them to defend their original statement. The second skill is to listen for the message underneath the words. During conflict, people do not always communicate their feelings in a clean or reasonable sentence. Someone may say, "You don't care about this family at all," when what they really mean is, "I have been feeling unsupported and I want more involvement from you." Someone may say, "You never listen to me," when the deeper message is, "I do not feel that my concerns are being taken seriously." This does not mean every harsh statement is acceptable. It means that active listening looks beyond the surface whenever possible. Ask yourself, what problem is this person trying to communicate? What feeling might be behind these words? What do they need me to understand? These questions help move your attention away from winning the argument and toward understanding the situation. The third skill is to avoid preparing your defense while the other person is talking. This is difficult because our minds are fast. While someone is speaking, we may already be thinking, "That is not what happened. I have an explanation," or "Wait until I tell them what they did." When your mind is preparing a defense, you are no longer fully listening. Try something different. Let the person finish their main point. Take one breath, then respond. That small pause can completely change the direction of a conversation. For example, a student might tell a teacher, "I feel like you gave me less opportunity to participate than the other students." The teacher may immediately think, "That's unfair. I gave everyone the same opportunity." Instead of responding immediately, the teacher could say, "Can you tell me what happened that made you feel that way?" Now the conversation has moved from accusation toward information. The fourth skill is reflective listening. Reflective listening means briefly communicating what you believe you heard. You can say, "So, if I understand you correctly," or "What I am hearing is," then explain the main concern in your own words. This is especially useful during conflict because people often become more emotional when they believe they are not being heard. Suppose two team members disagree about a project. One says, "You changed the plan without asking me." The other responds, "What I hear you saying is that the main problem is not only the change itself, but that you felt excluded from the decision." That response does not mean you are right about everything. It means I understand the concern you are expressing. And sometimes being understood is enough to reduce the emotional intensity of the conversation. The fifth skill is to ask clarifying questions instead of argumentative questions. Argumentative questions are designed to prove someone wrong. They sound like, "How can you possibly think that?" or "Where is your evidence?" Clarifying questions are designed to understand. They sound like, "What part of the situation concerned you most?" Or "When did you first start feeling this way?" The difference is not just in the words. It is in the intention. A good clarifying question opens the conversation. An argumentative question closes it. Another powerful technique is to separate facts, interpretations, and feelings. During conflict, these three things often become mixed together. A person might say, "You ignored me because you do not respect me." The observable event might be that a message was not answered. The interpretation is that the silence means disrespect. The feeling may be hurt, frustration, or disappointment. Active listening allows you to acknowledge the feeling without automatically accepting the interpretation as fact. You might say, "I understand that not getting a response made you feel ignored. I did not intend to communicate disrespect, but I can understand why the situation felt that way." This kind of response is powerful because it validates the person's experience without forcing you to accept an accusation that you believe is inaccurate. However, active listening does not mean allowing disrespectful behavior to continue. If someone is shouting, insulting you, threatening you, or refusing to allow you to speak, you can set a boundary. You might say, "I want to understand your concern, and I am willing to continue this conversation, but I cannot have a productive discussion while we are insulting each other. Let's take a short break and continue when we are calmer." That is still active listening. You are protecting the possibility of a constructive conversation. In workplaces, this skill can prevent small disagreements from becoming long-term relationship problems. In families, it can reduce repeated arguments. In friendships, it can make difficult conversations more honest. In leadership, it can help people feel safe enough to raise concerns before those concerns become larger problems. The goal is not to eliminate disagreement. Healthy relationships will always contain disagreement because people have different experiences, expectations, priorities, and perspectives. The important question is, what happens when disagreement appears? Do we turn disagreement into a competition, or do we use it as an opportunity to understand? The next time you feel yourself becoming defensive, do not demand that yourself become completely calm immediately. Instead, notice the reaction. Slow down. Let the other person finish. Listen for the concern underneath the words. Ask a clarifying question. Reflect what you heard, then decide what you actually want to say. You may still disagree. You may still need to correct something. You may still need to defend a legitimate boundary. But you can do all of those things after listening. That is the heart of active listening during conflict. You do not have to choose between being heard and hearing someone else. You can create space for both. Practice this skill in your next difficult conversation. Your goal is not to win the argument faster. Your goal is to understand more clearly, respond more thoughtfully, and prevent a difficult moment from becoming a damaged relationship. If this lesson helped you, like the video and share it with someone who could benefit from learning how to handle difficult conversations more effectively. Subscribe to the channel for the rest of the Active Listening Mastery 15 Practical Lessons for Better Communication series, and continue to the next session, where we will build on these skills and explore another practical part of becoming a stronger listener.